Hey, what's up, sports fans? Welcome to yet another episode of Sports, of course, with Jonah and RPF. We've got RPF on the road today. Fantastic. You can find us anywhere you listen to your podcast. You can over at Apple, Spotify, Podbean. You can find us socially at Instagram and still to this day, X. However, we are still figuring that one out. And also, you can, of course, find us on our dedicated YouTube channel. Sports, of course, with Jonah and RPF. Just type that into the search bar in any of those platforms and we'll pop right up. As I've always mentioned, we are, I do believe, the only Sports, of course, with Jonah and RPF. With that said, without further ado, RPF, my friend, not how are you, where are you?
This is the dog days of summer for us. We are actually in a lake house somewhere mysteriously
Awesome.
in the middle of New York State. It's beautiful, and it's very disconcerting, this centering, because it's like I'm still working, still doing everything, but I'm like in this bucolic, beautiful environment. I'm like, that's even more torturous than usual. When I can't, it's so close yet I can't enjoy it. But more importantly, in many ways, I was looking back. This is the fourth straight podcast that we begin, I think, with soccer. There is, even as
soccer, yep.
yeah, but even as we joke about, or kind of like tongue in cheek, because football is king, of course, American football is king here.
Yep.
But even us, we are like so football centric, in every every podcast we've legitimately have let off with not only the logical reason for starting with soccer, but also our interest in the games and the matches going. So it's a very, if we're like a tiny, like a case study of what the mood of the country might be shifting towards. I think this is interesting that soccer once again, both women and men, which is interesting too.
Yes, agreed. And kind of my thoughts. I'm sure we're going to get into this more. Kind of my thoughts with the women's side of it, like the Women's World Cup, is perhaps sort of the opposite. Obviously our women's team is usually, and still is for that matter. Geez, let's not kid ourselves. Much better than the men's team, but almost like, because we won the last two World Cups, and we were trying to go for a third one in a row, blah blah blah. But it's almost kind of like, because we were eliminated so early, it was like all of a sudden it opened up it pulled back the curtains to all these other teams, around the world, women's teams, that we don't typically pay attention to, because we're usually just, the women are, when's our next game? But now we're not playing anymore. And I'm kind of like, who's playing? Like, let's check this out.
Totally.
And so I've been kind of fascinated by, and drawn to other countries.
Mm-hmm. I equate it like in the Winter Olympics, when the female hockey players are playing. U.S. and Canada, the only two teams in the world that have been any good for 2 decades. So, if it's like Bulgaria is playing Ecuador in ice hockey, I'm not exactly riveted by, Peacock live coverage of 3 a.m. of that match. But this is different, because I think the quality. First of all, a couple things about, since you mentioned the women. This morning, just before we came on, just to record this on Wednesday, England just beat Australia in the semis to join Spain in the finals this weekend on Sunday morning. Spain and England sounds like a familiar World Cup to me, like a men's type of World Cup, or like certainly a European Championship type of thing, being longtime rivals in the men. I have to give a heads up. A little shout out to Australia, the team for Australia, who completely defied expectations and went all the way to the semis as being one of the two co-host countries. By all accounts, Australia and New Zealand, who are jointly hosting this World Cup for the women, have done everything perfectly. The best hosts, the most accommodating, breaking attendance records everywhere they went, loving coverage and press coverage everywhere. No real issues with like crowd control or fighting and all that stuff, which is so typical of all these type of matches ordinarily. So I mean, and now logically and interestingly, Australia and New Zealand are going to jointly try to go for the Men's World Cup to be a host location, which I think would be an amazing thing, which would be good. But Spain, England on Sunday morning, I think everyone should watch that just to kind of support the efforts like we were talking about. And it's been really impressive to watch both teams. Did you see the Spain match?
I didn't.
They played in the semi.
Highlights, but
okay, it was 0-0 up until soccer. It was 0-0 until like the 85th minute of a 90-minute match.
Yep.
All of a sudden, Spain is up 1-0, and all of a sudden it's tied. A minute later, 1-1. All of a sudden, in the 90th minute, it was the last 4 minutes of that contest was amazing. 2-1 Spain. It was a lot of emotional highs and lows, and it was like flatline emotionally until those last 5 minutes, which is usually not the case. So it was very interesting. So anyway, Spain, England, good for them. I'm actually happy for both teams, and I'm very proud of Australia's team for doing so well and being such a great host. I mean, as you may have heard from me 100 times, I'm a huge, huge fan of Australia, and I've been several times, and Sydney's my wannabe secret home that I want to live in eventually, but we'll see.
Okay, well, let's do it. Let's go.
Let's do sports, of course, with Jonah and RPF down under. That's what we should do.
Down under,
yeah. So anyway, to me that's the Women's World Cup. On Sunday morning, we'll find out which of the two surprise teams in the finals will be the new World Cup champion. But we have to. But all soccer roads the past 2 months lead to. And I came up with the Brill's comment that says,
I'm going to kick this off. I'm going to kick this off with the stat that I looked up this morning, because I flipped open my sports apps, and one of the first headlines I see is, of course, Messi scores for 6th straight game in a row to take Miami to the finals in this what is it called, the Leagues Cup, I think it is.
It's called the Leagues Cup. Mm-hmm.
The Leagues Cup, yeah. So I'm like, oh, good Lord. And going back to the previous episode when I talked about how, I'm like, okay, so he's already got so many goals. Like, I was like, is he the leading scorer? Like, so I started looking into this stuff. I'm like, okay, this is crazy, right? So I start looking it up. I got it pulled up right here so I don't get it wrong. And I'm looking in the MLS, and he's not showing up, and I'm like, what the heck? And then I realize it's because I think since he's come over, they haven't played any MLS games.
That's correct.
They've only been playing in the Leagues Cup.
Correct.
And so then I look, and it's like, in the MLS, it's like, oh, the leading scorer has played. It tells you how many games they've played and how many goals they have. Mm-hmm. And the leading scorer, hey, let's get it right here. The leading scorer in the MLS is Joseph Martinez, or Joseph. I don't know what country he's from, but he's played 20 games and he's got 6 goals. He's a pretty good soccer player, right? And so then I'm like, oh, maybe he's over at the Leagues Cup. And I'm like, oh, there he is. Oh yeah, Lionel Messi, Leagues Cup. 6 games played, 9 goals.
Well, look. Listen, I came up with the brilliant one that says, as GOAT as advertised, right? Because the hype.
GOAT as advertised, absolutely.
But I have a new one. I think Messi is messing with us. He is messing with us. I mean, he's just toying with America's sports fanaticism. I mean, he's literally. I mean, did you see his goal he scored just last night?
Yes.
It was kind of ridiculous. It was like a left-footed shot about halfway into nearly at the half field mark. I mean, it was insane.
The quarter-way mark of the
quarter. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it seemed like people were just suspended watching him. It was just like, yeah.
And the nuts part about it was, like, it wasn't like the way he kicked it. It looked like he was just like bored, and he was like,
Messi is messing with us. That's my point.
Yes.
Say it with me. Messi is messing with us. I'm telling you, he's messing with us. I mean, I'm thinking, wait until these contests really matter to him. Like he's gonna be like 3 goals a game. I mean, ridiculous.
Yeah, so at any rate, I do believe you're correct that Messi is messing with us. And again, it kind of goes back to what I mentioned in the last episode when I said, when I mentioned how I'm like, oh, so you're telling me that he's only been here for like 4 games and he's already one of the leading scorers, and I was kind of joking about like, to me, I was like, is this more about him or just how bad we've been? And like, I
Listen,
feel like now
you
he's like
you
part of an
bashed
ulterior
America.
motive.
You bashed America in the last podcast. You said how, and I'm quoting now. How bad is American soccer? Is what you said. Okay, that's what you said. So I'm saying Messi is that much better than any soccer.
And in fairness, in fairness, this Leagues Cup isn't just American teams. There's
correct.
Some other
And in fairness, Leo Messi just led Argentina to the World Cup just this past year.
Also,
so
yes, also in fairness, yes.
I mean, so I am wearing my red, white, and blue today in defense of American sports and American soccer. But Leo Messi, just quickly, just recap. He has 9 goals in 6 games. He Miami was in the Miami team which is co-owned by David Beckham was in the bottom of the standings when Messi came over. They were supposed to lose in the first round of this Leagues Cup. They've now literally obliterated everyone in sight with one close match that was won in PKs that Messi, of course,
obliterated.
Scored.
It's been like 4-0, 4-1, like every game.
Yeah, exactly. 4-1. Yeah, exactly. 4. It seems to be the magic number when they all go, okay, that's enough. I'm tired of running. So, so now they play in the championship of the Leagues Cup this Saturday morning Saturday against Nashville in the team in Nashville, and they're playing at Nashville in Tennessee. So, full expectation. Should be a fun one to watch as well, because Nashville, I don't know anything about them. I assume they're pretty good. So now they're in the final. So should be fun to watch Messi, maybe blindfolded and with one arm tied behind his back, maybe like do a header goal or something. Yeah, I mean, how good is he? He hasn't done it with his hands tied behind his back yet. So anyway, so right. It's pretty fun stuff to watch. And of course, part of this Miami wave of kind of like this moment in Miami sports fandom history that all the teams seem to be peaking at the right time, at the same time. So that's interesting. Even D Wade and Zach Thomas, D Wade for the Heat and Zach Thomas for the Dolphins, longtime standouts. Now they're both in the Hall of Fame. So it's been a pretty good moment for Miami sports. I mean, it's been a really nice type of, Okay, so that's my Messi report. But again, not only is he as good as GOAT as advertised, Messi is messing with us. Okay, so that's kind of like
Messi is messing with us. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. So that is that. I want to go into football, if that's okay with you. American football.
Yes, from football to football.
From football to football.
It's my favorite segue.
My least favorite time I've had here in this beautiful environment in this lakefront cottage was when we went to dinner. Was it 2 nights ago? I'm at dinner and a kind of gussied up. It's a sports bar with a culinary institute chef cooking bar food, which is it's really good. So I had this really great bowl of pasta. I was watching Sports Center in a huge, brand new, shiny TV set, and literally in a matter of 30 seconds, it's like someone slapped me on one side, put an oar on the other side. It was like double whammy. 2 breaking news at the same time. Jets signed Dalvin Cook, the running back from the Vikings, for $8.6 million. Mm-hmm. Patriots signed Ezekiel Elliott for $6 million. So in 30 seconds, not only did you ruin my effing vacation time and dinner in this spot now I can never go to because I associate it with like pain and suffering. Dalvin Cook, as many podcasts of our millions of listeners and fans know, Dalvin Cook has been doing everything but screaming he wants to be a Miami Dolphin for 6 months. literally on Twitter, on interviews, on everything. Dolphins, Dolphins, Dolphins. He's from Miami, coming home. I love the team. Tyreek Hill and him are best friends. They're like social media buddies, and everything's Miami. He went to the Jets as kind of like as a couple weeks ago to kind of just check it out. And he goes like, "No way, I can never live there. Taxes are so high." Long story short, it was revealed that he signed for it was $7 million guaranteed, 8.6 in incentives total. He was offered 5 point something in Miami guaranteed and another 2 million. Essentially, after the taxes he has to pay legally, if he's paying taxes in New York State and New York, he's making 30% less than he would have made in Miami. So who is his financial advisor? That's what I want to know, because apparently he rejected Miami's number because it's lower on paper than it is practically. So he can say he's the highest paid running back, quote unquote, but he's paying like I'm paying, you're paying, like Sweden type taxes here in New York. So that's why it's so shocking to me that Dalvin Cook went.
I think it's just a testament that of who he thinks he has a better shot of winning the Super Bowl with.
I think it's a testament of the manifesto writing, dirty-haired quarterback probably calling him and saying, "It'll be fun to play with you," So anyway, I won't mention names, but
right.
Someone went
either that or he threatened to bomb his house.
Well, you said it. I'm talking about Leo Messi. He is a good guy. You're talking about like all this nefarious activity. Okay. So anyway, that's the one whammy. And the second whammy, it was like cushioned because the Patriots are not a real threat still. Ezekiel Elliot could be great, could be a bust. We don't know. It's a 1-year deal. Yeah. It's not going to change the world, but at least, it was just kind of like coming on the heel in the same minute as the other one. I was like, what? Is every team getting running backs except mind you, hang on. And then I was reminded by everyone who loves me that not only do we have Mostert, who's a great solid type of running back that can be easily 1,000-yarder. He was just that way with the Niners right before we got him last year. But this rookie in camp is literally like setting the world on fire as a running back in Miami. And just Google this guy. I don't even know his name. But everybody, the whole team was like Godsmack, apparently faster than Tyreek Hill. Incredible. So anyway, it's supposed to be like this like track team is going to go out there. So anyway, I have to relax because maybe be careful what you wish for would happen with Dalvin Cook. So much expectation and,
Right.
All right. So anyway, so that's my football bullets. What's your take on these?
You have to think with your receiving core over there in Miami, if you bring in a guy like Dalvin Cook, I think you start to run the risk of getting too many chefs in the kitchen, and you start to run the risk of, hey, I want the ball. No, I want the ball. No, I want the ball. And so I think. To your point, like you just mentioned, I think there is, perhaps a silver lining there. Like you said, you do have serviceable running backs who are at this point, at least in my opinion, should be okay with the team saying, "Hey, Waddle and Hill are going to get most of the action, but when we call on you, we expect you to do really well." Whereas I think a guy like Dalvin Cook might start to. Maybe not the first couple weeks, but I think over time might be like, hey, I thought I was the guy, and then you're gonna have Hill and Waddle going, no, we're the guys, we were here first, so
right. And not that, and I think
silver lining there.
I do think so too. Once I calm down from the letdown again, but I will tell you this: I do think that when we shipped off my favorite player, Mike Gesicki, my tight end for the Dolphins, to the Patriots, I was like, oh my gosh, why would he do that? And in fact, I think you're right. When we got Braxton Berrios, this little type of Edelman type of type of Wayne Corbett type of guy, and he's a punt returner, kick returner, and also a third down type of like the slot receiver. He's Cuban from Miami. He's going to have a big fan base. I think that's going to be the outlet passing and the running backs. And Gesicki, now they're openly saying that the tight ends are going to be blocking guards, essentially, go to Miami, by the way, could desperately need. And Gesicki, that was not his strength at all. He couldn't block him. He couldn't block me, I don't think. So he was definitely not his strength. But he has this big highlight reel type of catches and stuff. So I think it is, someone smarter than me is making these calls, because I think that's actually, Dalvin Cook, we would have happily had him for the right price. We're not going to overpay, that type of thing. So I think once I calmed down, it was good. And then, by the way, I felt good for you guys, because at least you have a marquee name on the backside of his career, with a little risk. There's no risk in a 1-year contract that he can have a couple of breakout runs. All of a sudden, that changes the game, maybe. So
there is the upside is that there's very little risk. If you bring him in and he sucks, then nothing changed. We're essentially we're in a win-win situation as it comes down to that aspect of it, where, like I just mentioned, if he comes in and he and he opens up and has sort of a resurgence of of himself with a fresh start, then it's like, wow, great, this is amazing and kind of unexpected, in my opinion. Whereas if he comes in and he doesn't do anything, it's just like, well, I don't think we're going to do much anyway.
So, this is my.
I gotta be honest. I wasn't massively thrilled. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, the signing we've been waiting for.
First of all, I like to hear that. I like to hear that pitch.
Still towards the tail end of his career.
Right. Well, but I wonder what player would inspire you to hit those notes. If you ever like Patrick Mahomes traded to the Patriots. Oh my God, Patrick Mahomes! That was me with Tyreek Hill. I can't believe you got Tyreek Hill. I'll tell you this.
Here's the other thing, though. Is that honestly, it hasn't been the Patriots' running game that has upset me.
Right.
Ramondre Stevens came out of nowhere and has been more than serviceable.
Yeah.
Not to mention Damian Harris has had some injury issues, but when he's
but Stevens has been consistent. And Stevens consistent.
The running game has not been my concern. It's the passing game, and it's
the
inconsistency of it.
I think it's a play calling.
It's the lack of any sort of threat. Like if I'm a defense going up against the Patriots right now, I have zero worries that I'm going to get torched over the top.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's why every 3rd and 9 play, you guys throw the ball for 4 yards. It's like hoping to break a tackle. That's like
it is so nauseating.
I'm thinking, if I was the Patriots fan, I'd be like, throw interceptions. I don't care. Throw the ball down the field past the fucking marker. Honestly, it's like first of all, your players are not playmakers enough to break a tackle. It's like, oh my God, it's just bad. But I will tell you this: but I think Elliot, I don't know. I think he's gonna frustrate you in the sense, because I think he's gonna have 3 35+ yard breakouts, and then he's gonna have 25 behind the line scrimmage, losses, and I don't know. It's gonna be like all in.
Get our hopes up.
Yeah, it's gonna be feast or famine with a lot of feast or famine with a lot of famine. I think, if you ask me.
Yeah.
But here's the interesting part of this camp. I was doing the scouting report of all these teams, and I was intrigued when the Colts got Anthony Richardson, the quarterback, so high he was the 4th pick overall. And in college, he was another hit or miss guy. He was feast or famine guy. He threw some interceptions that I'm like, what? It was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But then he had some passes that were just so when he went all the way up. Apparently he had an amazing combine, an amazing type of minicamp type of presence, and all the teams were vying for him. So he became the 4th pick. And they just announced yesterday or this morning that the Colts are gonna start him in the NFL. In the season. So he's a rookie quarterback starting. He's going to make a lot of boneheaded type of ESPN eye-popping mistakes, but I think he's going to have this trajectory. And you know what I like about him? He's saying the right things. He's saying, I don't want to be a guy later in my career that's known as the guy who played in the NFL. I want to be an icon. I want to be remembered as one of the greatest. I'm like, wow, okay. Brooke, you're just starting. But that's what Dan Marino was saying when he first came on. And he has, remember back in those days when he was all the way down to 21st pick or something, that Miami was able to get him. He was insulted. He thought he was going to be top 5 pick, and all of a sudden, all these fake rumors about him. And anyway, so he had a chip on his shoulder, and he played that way, and he blew up the league, as you know. So I think this guy, Anthony Richardson, I think he's going to be fun to watch. I mean, I don't know, good or bad, but I think it's going to be interesting to watch. Anyway, keep your eyes on Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson. So that's my NFL moment. Anything for you besides that, NFL wise?
No,
because we're moving to a really fun part.
I knew there'd be a lot of hype around Ezekiel Elliott, and I just want to squash the hype right now.
You're like a negative Nancy lately. So far. It's a problem. It's a problem. Excuse me, Pat fans out there that I know they're out there that love our podcast. I'm a bigger supporter of the Pats so far this season coming up than you are. I mean, I'm actually considering the Pats to be, a 10-7 team. They're pretty. They're not embarrassing anywhere. I mean, they just need to have a playmaker here and there. Anyway, but yeah. I think I'm hoping that you're not a 10-7 team. It would be nice to have an easy one in that division, which now every team is getting, ostensibly better. I mean, every single week, the teams are getting better.
Here's a question. Have the Bills gone from like first to worst in the AFC?
You would think so, but I don't know. First of all, wouldn't that be something? My God! Now, and by the way, without anything drastic happening, that would have been.
Right, that's what I mean. Like everyone else. Everyone else. The other 3 teams, I can now see. Here's the nice thing about the Ezekiel Elliott pickup is I can now at least include the Patriots on the list of teams that are trying to do something.
Correct.
They at least tried something.
That's been your complaint for a while, that they're just standing still and hoping for the best or something. Yes. And in fact, now they're at least making moves, minor moves, but moves that are,
They at least brought in someone of superstar status. Let's put it that way.
Let me ask you this: the odds makers.
I don't know that the Bills have done anything.
Right. Well, the odds makers have done this. Well, first of all, I want to go back for a second, but the odds makers, I just saw a headline. Joe Burrow has been hurt a little bit this preseason. He's still for the Bengals quarterback. He's still odds favorite. The odds makers favorite to win the MVP this year above Mahomes, which I found curious. Being the fact that he's hurt, the fact that he's never done it, but everyone seems to believe, at least in those smoke-filled rooms in Vegas, in the sports rooms, that they're in the sports betting rooms, right, that it's his time to do it. And Josh Allen is in top 5 in that list, which is very interesting to me. He's been top 5 since he's been in the league. So to your point, I'm not sleeping on the Bills. I mean, the Bills have not done anything wrong. The Bills have not changed that much. They're the same team. They're still a formidable team. But that same team, Miami split the games, the regular season games, and then without Tua, were 6 points away from upsetting them in the playoffs in the first round in Buffalo. So I think, to your point, them not improving and all the teams in their division, making moves to improving, it could be a messed up, like 10-7 bottom of the division type of situation for the Bills. Yeah, it could prove to be very interesting. I will say, interdivision games: Jets, Dolphins, Patriots, Bills, Dolphins, all those Jets, Bills. That's going to be marquee stuff, I think, because we're so familiar with each other's team. Yeah, it'd be very good.
Yep.
Now, let me tell you something that I'm really excited about that I don't even know you. Okay. I'm not sure if you've been paying attention to, because as we mentioned before in every podcast, that you put the word, don't watch basketball until you have to. So the NBA, I think these sports leagues have finally got marketing people in the room, in the room where it happens, to quote Hamilton. They're now, baseball a couple of years ago said, okay, how can we make this sport that has no clock interesting? Oh, I know. Let's put a clock in. How can we make a sport that's so defensive and pitching friendly less so? Oh, I know. Let's have the bases be bigger, and they can't throw the first base after 2 times. It's worked 100 times. Again, the games are shorter, the fans are happier, it's more exciting. All this stuff is happening. I mean, we've seen people run the bases and steal home base. I mean, it's been kind of like a nutty, almost like a PlayStation version of Major League Baseball, which is really fun. Which is really, and it hasn't hurt the integrity of the game. I haven't heard too many of these, the old farts saying, "Oh, in my day, this is," I mean, if I have to hear one more time for 25 years about the DH going to ruin baseball, you know what? What's a category? Go fuck yourself. Shut the hell up. I don't want to see a pitcher who barely should be in the major leagues like swing at a ball 4 feet away from him. I mean, please, Anyway, so that was baseball's fix, and they did it well, and they fixed it. Now the NBA goes, hold my, Red Bull. So the NBA now has come up with something called the NBA Cup. Let me explain for the uninitiated. The NBA Cup is going to be, it's a World Cup format in the beginning / towards the beginning of the season. But here's what makes it interesting. They have a group play, right? And all the groups were chosen at random. But so it wasn't like the East and the West, and all these teams who don't ordinarily play each other are going to be part of these like A through G, exactly like the World Cup, right?
Yep.
There's group play, and they're played on Tuesdays and Fridays from November 3rd through the championship to December 9th. After the group format, then you get into the single elimination games. Once you make it out of group, okay? The games actually count as regular season games, except for the championship game. Each player gets $500,000 if they're on the team that wins the NBA Cup. It's still an 82-game schedule. Every team has a 2 TBD type of in their thing because they have at least 2 games in the group that have to be played. Mm-hmm. I think it is genius. It also will kind of show us early in the season what team is peaking then versus later, and I think it's a really, really smart move to make, and it really plays into the best of March Madness. That what we love about between March Madness and the World Cup and these type of format, that it's almost like, and then you're playing for something. You're playing for not only for the players, they have money, but they're also playing for bragging rights for the NBA Cup, and it's going to be played. The finals is in Vegas on December 9th. So I think this is brilliant because who's watching basketball? You certainly aren't until March, or April. I watch it because I'm kind of.
I like that. That's an interesting breakdown. It's nice. It almost gives you like 2 little mini seasons almost. It's
exactly. Exactly. I think it's really good. So anyway, so I'm
Baseball could do something similar and time it so that the
world,
quote unquote, the MLB Cup, if you will, the MLB Cup, the championship game could be on 4th of July, right before the All-Star break.
Perfect. Exactly.
Yeah.
People could be watching, like new fans could be watching, or all fans could be watching. Exactly. So I think this is going to be a really smart trend, and I'm really excited to see how this. I mean, it's almost foolproof. It's almost like, who's not going to watch this? I mean, the schedule is it's Tuesdays and Fridays, and then, what I'm saying? So you kind of get into the rhythm of, oh, it's Friday. Let me record that and let's see what happens. Oh, and they have like blockbuster first rounder games. Like, they have like, whatever. They have the 2 like marquee teams playing each other in the first round already in group play and stuff. So anyway, it's a very, very smart thing. So that's NBA. Kudos to them about that.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Before we get into,
they might draw me in, RPF.
I'm saying, you'll be drawn in because by then the Patriots are like 2-7 and you've lost interest of So I mean, by then you're like Ezekiel Elliott has had like set fumbles inside the red zone, and you want to just anyway.
But actually, by then, Bailey Zappi will have replaced. It'll be Zappy Hour.
Zappy Hour.
Cheese. And And I will be fully back on board.
Zappy hour. I mean, wow. Speaking of which,
Yeah.
what's happening with the Niners? Did you see that exhibition game? I mean, that preseason game.
No.
It was, first of all, it was in Las Vegas playing the Raiders. So the Niners and Raiders, for the first time, they were kind of playing when they moved to Vegas, even though it's an exhibition. First game of the season, obviously exhibition. The tickets were like $700 in scalping for like an exhibition game that no starters played in. But there's 2 points to be made there. One is the Niners were favored to win. They lost, like, I believe it was 36-7 or something crazy. And then Derek Carr, quiz. Do you know where Derek Carr is now playing?
I don't.
Actually, I thought I did too. Wait, where's Derek Carr playing? Oh my God, I'm blanking out. But have you seen him in preseason?
Tough quiz.
Google it while I tell you this. Derek Carr has always been like kind of this guy. His brother used to play in the NFL. He's always like on the verge of, he's always overhyped more than he actually performed, and culminating with last season when it all went to hell in a handbasket. But he is so jacked this preseason. He came in like Mr. Olympia or something. He looks like ripped, like almost like cartoonish how ripped he is. And he's saying this is the season for me. So what team is he with? Are you Googling?
Yeah, he's in New Orleans.
Well, let me tell you, the Saints are they won't be the Aints anymore. I think Derek Carr has a chip on his shoulder, and he's been throwing around some heavy weights in that gym because he looks unbelievable. Yeah. So anyway, so then that's the NBA, that's the NFL. Another NFL related kind of like off the field kind of. I'm not sure how to think about this. I believe his last name is, how you pronounce it is Oher. Is Michael Oher? The guy that was obviously that was famously depicted in the Oscar-winning film The Blind Side. He was the African American young man that was adopted by the white parents in the family, and he became an NFL star, et cetera, and won Sandra Bullock an Oscar, for her. So what happens? Michael Oher this week filed that he was never legally adopted, that family tricked him into becoming into a conservatorship. And that you may remember from the Britney Spears debacle, that Britney Spears also had a conservatorship. So anyway, so essentially this family allegedly has profited into the millions of dollars off his name, and he has nothing to show for it, according to his filing. So that's going to see how. We're not sure how it plays out, but I don't think there's going to be a sequel to The Blind Side. That's going to be a very happy one. Anyway, so then we go into as always, into tennis. I know it's your favorite tennis report. This will be quick. This is a happy one for most of the part. Jessica Pegula, which is very interesting also for non-tennis fans. The Pegula family, as you may have heard, Jessica her dad owns the Buffalo Bills, and her dad owns other teams. Anyway, she came from privilege, a lot of money. So people were always like, yeah, exactly. So people were always a little side-eyed, well, who's this rich girl coming to play tennis? She's number 3 in the world. By all accounts, the most humble, the most gracious, the most lovely person ever. She plays consistent, as consistent as a backboard, like a human backboard. A bit like Chris Everett used to play, back in the day. And she just won a huge tournament in Canada, and she beat Iga Swiatek, the Polish, invincible Polish player. Yep. She beat her in the semifinals, and she won the final 6-0, 6-1. And more importantly, Coco Gauff, I told you, had a new coach and a new consultant, and Brad Gilbert, and Coco Gauff, Jessica beat Coco Gauff 7-5 in the third set in the quarterfinals. So that was the big turning point. And Coco was playing well. And here's the punchline. They're best friends, both Americans, and they play doubles together. and they're playing great together in doubles. So that's going to bode well not only for both of them in the U.S. Open, peaking at the right time, but also as a team, as teammates going into the Olympics next year in Paris. So that's going to be fun to watch them play for America.
Very fun.
And then on the men's side, Alcaraz, he lost to an American, Tommy Paul, who for the second straight year beats Alcaraz in the Canadian tournament in the quarterfinals. And Alcaraz is looking pretty rough. I mean, for him, I mean, he's always, I can't praise him enough for all his skill. And he still had the most ridiculous shot of the year, even when in that match against Tommy Paul, he did a tweener that, between the legs and running behind, but passing shot that was just, you have to Google it or YouTube it just to believe it. But having said all that, Tommy Paul beat him. After 2 rough matches, he barely squeaked by. So now he is playing in Cincinnati, which is another big tournament, right before the U.S. Open, which starts in 2 weeks. And he had a rough first round last night, and he got through in 3 sets. So I don't know what's going on right now, but in a weird way, I don't mind him finding to struggle his way out of matches now, because when you're playing 3 out of 5 in New York City, which he won last year, the U.S. Open, unexpectedly, I don't mind him pushing himself further until he can peak at the right time in a couple of weeks. Anyway, so this tournament he's playing now, Djokovic is back playing, so he's the number 2 seed, and Carlos is number 1. So ostensibly, they're slated to meet in the final. We'll see what happens. And a little quick side note: Djokovic played with a countryman from Serbia or wherever he's from, and he, I think he's Serbian, right? Anyway, so but he lost in the doubles, like got killed by, I don't know. He's from one of those countries with earthquakes and civil wars and stuff. All right, so all right. So then to end our beautiful segment, I'm wearing, as you can see, my favorite team in the world in baseball is Boston Red Sox. Yep. Red Sox shirt. It's a true jersey. I bought this on Yawkey Way. Thank you very much. Which is, as you know, from Boston. It's at Fenway Park, in the official place to buy these type of things. Anyway, last night, the Red Sox are now, as I mentioned in the last episode, they have Chris Sale back, which is our star pitcher. They have they have the return of Trevor Story, our star shortstop. And the ship has been righted. They've won more than they've lost, and now they're kind of surging again. So last night they're playing the Washington Nationals in DC, and we won the game 5-4. That's the good news. The weird news was, this is all over SportsCenter, all over ESPN, all over everywhere, Twitter, or rather X, and all those other places. Justin Turner, who to me still sounds like the lead singer of a boy band, Justin Turner had a 10-pitch at bat towards the in the 4th inning, and he got a strike 3 call after 10 pitches that was so outside the pitching zone. I mean, it was so ridiculous. Did you see it?
Yes, I did.
It was 6 inches, which is a healthy man's measurement, 6 inches off the plate. But and did you see the announcers on the Nationals side also? First they showed the audio was the Red Sox, and the guy's like, "What? That's terrible!" The Nationals, the play-by-play guy said, "Whoa, strike 3 called," and the color guy's this, "Whoa, no way, dude, no way." And they should cut to the Nationals manager on the bench saying, "Wow." Anyway, so I'm going to call him out. Bruce Deckerman, umpire Bruce Deckerman, you've been pretty good always. I don't know what the F happened, but wow, to quote everybody.
The part I did see it. I saw, I think on Instagram or something. I don't know, but I did see it. And the part that made me chuckle, and I'm sure this is probably personally because I used to pitch, is because I know this has happened to me in the past. It's happened to me in the past where you get away with a call. The pitcher for the Nationals, I don't know who it was, but the pitcher for the Nationals, he scoots right off that mound. He's like, okay.
He was already in the dugout. He was out. is Garcia. Garcia was already halfway down the. Meanwhile, but here's the catcher. The catcher didn't even pretend. He caught it here, and he went like this. He caught it here, held it, and then goes like this. Oh my God, it's so funny. And the umpire goes, and you see Justin Turner goes like this. What are you doing to me?
Well, I got to give him credit too, also, because Justin Turner, his reaction was one of those of I thought it was great because he mentally understood that like there's nothing wow, this is just so ridiculous. He could have flipped out. He could have started screaming.
It never changes a call. It never changes a call. Right. It never changes a call.
Nothing's gonna change. And he just went. Wow.
He never turned around. He never turned around. He kept his face towards first base, and he just kind of went okay. And then of course Alex Cora and everybody went crazy. But it was very special. And for once, it wasn't the same umpire that gets every call wrong. What's his name? The last guy.
Angel
Hernandez. Angel is like Devil Hernandez for everyone. He's safe. And meanwhile, replay is he's out by 4 feet. It's very funny. All right, that's all I got.
All right, that is it. That's it. We're putting a bow on this show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We've had a blast as always. You can listen to us anywhere you listen to your podcast, over on Apple, Spotify, Podbean, and found socially on Instagram and X. And, of course, found on our dedicated YouTube channel. Just head to any of those platforms and in the search bar, punch in Sports Course with Jonah and RPF, and we'll pop right up for all of your listening pleasures. RPF, my friend, it has always been a fantastic one. I'll see you next time.
From GOAT, as GOAT as advertised, and Messi is messing with us.